first of all, let me express my joy, happiness, and pride to be part of this great project, which is launching of online teaching for the cross units in English. Indeed, the subject concerned is the seminar curriculum for Master 1 level. So thank you all for coming here today. Let me start by saying something or some words about my own background. So my name is SARAOUI Selma. I am an associate professor at our university, and I have been working here for almost 10 years. Mme Attar, like my student like to call or get used to call me. So it's unusual for me to present a course in English, and I think that I have just a little stress. I think that it will be disappear. It will disappear by going on the presentation. So I want to explain something today. As a responsible of the coloring, I have been asked to present a kind of course or presentation to my students of Master 1 in order to explain the coloring for them. So I would like to give them an overview about how to expect or what to expect if they will choose the coloring AET, which is Architecture, Environment and Technologies. So the topic, or today's topic, is for particular interest for those who are really interested in the current issues of architecture. I thought that to make the things useful, so I will divide my presentation in 3 sections. The first section will be about the training offer. The second section, in the second section, I will explain the IET, and the third section, I will present for you a research project that I have supervised with my colleague or by myself. So, if you don't mind, I will leave the questions or till the end. So, let me say something about the English level of my students. So, when I was asked to present this presentation or to present this course, I tried to test the level of my students in this field, and I realized that I have great issues with the listening. Even when it goes too fast, so I decided to make or to go less fast to allow them to understand my presentation. So that's all. As soon as you can see on screen, so the topic, the today topic is about the IET. IET is the abbreviation of the coloring that you will choose next year, or So the abbreviation of Architecture, Environment and Technologies. So today I want to give you an overview about the coloring, the methodologies that you can use, and the choices that could be used to realize your project or your final project of the year. So I will go to the next slide. So the first slide, I want you to understand what is required by the offer training. So if we analyze the offer training, we will realize realized that there are 3 points which are very important and must be understood. So the first one is the prerequisite. Generally, so if I try to give you an idea about that, so you must just have or master the Master 1 level to be able to choose the coloring. So the second point is the objective of teaching. So we have the acquisition of more in-depth language on the theme of the Master 2 and the assimilation of the relationship between architecture practice and urban socio-economic context. So the learning objective is more or less definitive positioning in the thematic choice. So if we try to analyze those 3 points, so we must just master some knowledges in the 4th year that you have studied to be able, by the end, to choose the theme and to try to make like your master thesis about the theme which I will present for you today, which is the AET. So for the next slide, if we follow the training offer, the student or you, my student, you will be able or you will have to choose between 4 coloring. So I'm not sure that the word coloring corresponds the most to what I'm explaining. I prefer use the word specialties because if we see the things in their context, I think that we are talking about specialties, not about coloring. So the first specialties, as you can see, or the first specialty as you can see in on the screen, is the housing. So the housing, I think that you know what's housing. So it's about habitat, the evolution, the historical evolution of the first human habitat in the world. So then we have the second specialty, which is the urban architecture, also called by the specialists in this field, the urban design, and who, sorry, it's French. So the third one is architecture, environment, and technologies. So here we have another field of, so you have another choice, and we have the last one, which is architecture and urban heritage or built heritage. So I just draw your attention to the fact that your diploma will not bear any mention about the choice. So this is the most important thing. That's why the specialists, so the specialists, I mean, you know, those who have made the training offer, I prefer to call it coloration or coloring, the word who corresponds the most. For me, it's still a specialty because you will have the same diploma at the final, but at the end, but the mastery of the field afterward will depend on the choice you have made. So people who have chosen the housing will master some notions or some concepts in housing. People who have chosen the heritage will master some notions or concepts in heritage. And the mastery of those notions will not be the same so we can find real differences between one student and another. So today, now I would like to tell you about the specialty that I'm managing this year and that I have been a part for almost 3 years, which is architecture, environment, and technologies. So, when we move to the training offer, the first thing that any teacher, any lecturer will try to do at the first is taking a look to the training offer and trying to explain it for the student or trying to explain it for himself, then to translate those explanations to the student. So I guess that for the content, it's clear that the objective of the seminar, which is our seminar today, is to help learner answer questions related to the building culture, the environment, and notions of sustainable architecture, or sustainable architecture, city integration technologies aspect. And so I think that the seminar focuses on various but closely related areas to reflection, aimed at creating links between design logic and construction logic. So we can treat several subjects or topics, and we have 5 kinds of great field of research. So I can explain it by physical ambience, comfort, sustainable architecture, materials and eco-construction, environment quality, and the choice and the use of innovative materials. So the mission of the architect, if I try to give an explanation to the training offer, I think that the mission of the architect is not only the insertion of an object in social, cultural, or economic context. No, it's also the insertion of this object which is considered as an architectural object in a technological context. So the energetic and ecological stacks impose very sharp approaches in terms of space, design, and technologies insertion. That's all I want to say about our training offer for the moment. So let's move to the next slide. So the next slide, I use the title, simple title, in appearance, very ambiguous if we try to analyze it. So it's the sciences of architecture. So why the sciences of architecture? So this is the question that you must ask every time. So when I will explain architecture, environment, and technologies, let's make let's your brain say that the idea is to link between those notions and what we call the sciences of architecture. So I want to ask you by first a simple question, which is, what is architecture? So when you try to give me the answers, we will notice that there are several answers, and the answers have great variety of stuff. We have a great variety of the answers. So have you ever been in a situation where you have the answer, but you prefer those of the others? For example, someone will answer my question, he will give us his own definition, and we prefer his own definition more than our own definition. So this is the things that I was asking myself about, and I said, how many of you have asked the same question? So I think that this is the big deal. This is the important thing that you must focus on by the end of your training in architecture. So most answers that we give to this question will be just an opinion. So if I ask you what's architecture, you will give me your own opinion about architecture. So if I analyze the answers, we will not have the same answer for just our question. So we have one question and several answers. And the answers vary in function of our position or epistemological position of the researcher. So if you are engineering you will try to define architecture in function of the things used by engineer. So if you are an artist, you will try to define architecture such as the artist, etc. So I remember when I was a student like you, I have asked the same question many times. And I had a teacher who explained the things in the simple way. The name of my teacher, he was Professor or Dr. Bensassi. You know, I missed the title. But the answer was very interesting. My teacher used the formation of the scientific mind of Gaston Bachelard to explain to me why architecture still confused between art and science, and we don't know even at the moment present why architecture is not science. So when I take a look on this slide, so we can understand that there are three kinds of knowledge. The knowledge is defined by three kinds of concepts, which are the thoughts, the problem, and the solution. So when we have the problem external to the thought, we will find solution very easily. When we have the problem inside the thought, we will not find the solution easily. And sometimes we will not find solution. So, if I analyze this definition given by Gaston Bachelard and explained by my own teacher, so we have two kinds of problems which characterize, if I can see that, architecture. So we have the difficulty and we have the obstacle. And architecture still not science because we are in the case of the obstacle. So the problem, not one problem, but several problems, characterize the thought in architecture, and this make architecture not science even nowadays. So this is the great deal, and I think you need this explanation to understand why the coloring or specialties in architecture are proposed by the offer training or by the specialists who have created this offer training. So let's move to the next slide. So let's take a look at the historical evolution of research in the modern world. So I will try to give you the summary of this evolution. So I tried to explain the history of the evolution of the studies inside architecture research by making a kind of translation of what has been done by several researchers all over the world, and however the time was, so different period. So we can see that I explained the things after the Industrial Revolution. You will ask me, you will ask me why. So before the Industrial Revolution, I can mention that the architectural space was considered as geometrical space. So all the studies that had been used or that had been developed in this field have taken in consideration the measurement of space. So if I said geometrical, so you will find several dimensions of space, metric dimension, and the references which have been used are les traités d'architecture. So those are kind of books in which we can find all the knowledge, especially geometrical language of architectural space. And then, So the first researcher was developed by Viollet-le-Duc, and it's concerned the heritage, so the principle of restoration. So for those who will choose heritage, research on heritage was the first researches all over the world, the most ancient. So the second thing that I want to explain for you is the rules of composition. So we have two kinds of rules of composition. The first one is Durand theory, and the second one is Gadet theory. So after that, we have the modern trend. And with the modern trend, we have a kind of different notions, the birth of different notions such as the urbanism, the housing, and the integrated projects inside the urban areas. So by the end, we have the postmodern trends. And by the works of Charles Jencks, we create a kind of reflection about the landscape in architecture. So as you can see, the research about the birth of architecture or the birth of the science of architecture are very recent. And the date that I give in my presentation is 1972. So as a conclusion, the most recent researchers are the ones which are interested in the science of architecture. So I will try to explain this for you. Last time, so I was watching the conference of Jean-Pierre Pénou. He made a conference in 2015 about architecture and the climatic, energetic, and ambient issues. So he tried to give us a kind of special dates which have a great impact on our reflection, global reflection in architecture. So the first date is 1972. So with the Earth Summit, we can assist to the appearance of the first book on architecture or on ecological architecture, which was The Limits of Growth. So Alexander Pike, who was a teacher and a researcher at Cambridge, has developed a completely autonomous house for the first time. So the message of this book still holds today: the Earth and our rocky source. So the global system of nature in which we all live probably cannot support present rates. And this is the conclusion of that book at 1972. So let me move to 1974. So we have the owl crisis and the birth of the first debate on ecology. So after that, in 1977, the appearance of several projects, such as the project that we are seeing in the slide. So architects try to create a kind of very compact chip to make the house more with less energetic issues. And then we have the proposal of the Energy City by George Alexandrov. So as you can see on the picture or on the slide, so the picture which is made by the hand drawn, it's the proposition of the first city, ecological city in the world. And you know, the situation of this city, so where was this proposition? It was in Algeria. So the first city, ecological city in the world, was proposed here in Algeria in our deserts. So how can we make the most of nature, of the creation of architecture? This was the great problem that several architects try to answer, if I can use this word. So we can see that the French side is poor in realization in this side. So I will go fast. So we have 1978. This was the first step of simulation, so the first use of computers for climate and solar adjustment. And we have the creation of the first book, Architecture du Soleil. So this first book, we can see that we have several definitions of what is considered as solar architecture or bioclimatic architecture. So in 1986, we will then move from a global study to the details. For example, we are studying the energy balances, solar contribution, the thermal and sound flow. So the review by 1988, sorry, lots of noise, please. So, in 1988, the review of the building of modernity has been considered for the second time. So, in this review, more architects consider that the works that had been done by Wright was really good and switched the most with the ecology. On the other hand, we consider that the works done by Le Corbusier wasn't really, or don't switch really with what we consider as ecological houses. So, I think that, you know, when... So I will try to focus on my slide. So I said that in 1991, the appearance of, so we assisted to the appearance of the first doctoral research on ambiances. So then, after that, in I think that there is an error on slide. So I think it's about 96. The contribution, so we assist to the contribution of architects to this research trend, and we can assist to the creation of research ambiances, structure ambiances, and you know, lot of topic in this field. So by 28, the emergence of the international network on ambience. So let me explain just a detail for you. We can see that it's about the ambiances, but in reality, in several laboratories in Europe especially, we treat all what can concern the science of architecture. So nowadays, the topic that can be included in this field are the global warming, the energy transition, and finally the COVID-19. So, furthermore, there are other interesting facts we should take a look at, which are the topics and the methods that we can use in this coloring. So, here I will give you a non-exhaustive list of topics that may be covered in this coloring. So those topics are explained in the training offer, but I think that we can combine between two concepts or three concepts you have, so you be more creative and try to create your own topic by respecting the topic given by the training offer. So the first one is the bioclimatic building. The second one is the intelligence or the intelligent materials and energy performance. Ambient performance building automation or automation. So we can treat the intelligence or smartest in houses like in a normal building. And by the end, we have resilient building. So you have, those are the choices that the training offer give to us. But you will see by the end that we can create our own subjects of research, and we can develop more than those who are proposed or that are proposed by the training offer. So, what you should know, my dear students, is that you will have to prepare during one semester the basis of what I call the thesis project, mémoire projet. So, according to this theme, this path of research will be divided into parts. That of the final project, and the second is that about the thesis. So, for the first semester, you will have just to make collecting data, document information related to the subjects or the project, and create what we call the project notebook. And by the second semester, you will have two paths to follow, which are the path of the projects and the path of the master thesis. So, the dissertation will deal with an approach, a detail, an element analyzed in everyday life in relation to the coloration of the project. On the other hand, will be based on the design as we usually do, but taking into consideration what has been done in the thesis, if only by simple application. So, by when you try to do your master thesis, you will finish by conclusion. So you will pass to the project and you will make a kind of design of the project. Then, by the end of the design of project, you must take a detail or an information relative or closest, which have a close relation with your project, and you will develop this detail by the end of the year. And I think that this is the most important thing to know for this coloring. So, in this part of my presentation, I would like to talk about some master theses that I have supervised by myself or by the help of my colleague. So, we have the first project, which is the hotel. You know, this hotel is here, situated here in Bejaia, Salade Hotel. So I think that I have a student, I think that, I forget his name, perhaps Selma. So with Selma, we try to look for the most favorable spaces, and we studied them first by taking measurements. Then we completed the seasons by the simulation to come out with a recommendation in order to improve the behavior of the hotel toward the visual comfort. So the work or the research work was very important. So if we move to the project, so the project of the end of study conceived was a hotel like what she has analyzed by the beginning of the year. So she tried to avoid in the design the issues discovered in the analyzed hotel. So the simulation shows us by the end that it's succeed the challenge. So the best way to understand the thing is that she tried to study the space and to create space which will deny, if you can see that, all the issues that have the first space. And I think that by the end of the year, the challenge was relieved, and I was so proud about these students. So, the second example is the university library, Thanina. So we have practically the same technique was applied in the library, and the result was perfect. So as you can see in this slide, this is the 3D model in Dialux Evo software, and then she tried to make a simulation, and for the person who is analyzing or who try to understand the space, we can understand that the result is just amazing, because we have windows, and behind the windows we have the great value of the daylight. So I think that this is, I consider that this work was very amazing. So I want to add something. So what is good in that coloring, which is architecture, environment, and technology, is that the students learn to draw, to simulate. So they will not be afraid to use the software during the second semester, because they already mastered it in the first semester. So you have this kind of class which some students will not have. So you will master the draw, the hand in draw, you will master the softwares of draw, and you will be able to make any simulation in order to visualize the architectural space. So let's move to the other example, which was the shopping center, retail shopping center. So my student, Mansouri, I guess, here she tried to study bioclimatic choices that we can make to avoid expensive buys in shopping center. And I think that the first step of the work was to analyze the space inside the shopping center, and she tried by the end to study the influence of features in relation with bioclimatic. And I think that this was the best way to understand the behavior, the thermal behavior of the building. So if I move to the last, or I don't think that it's the last example, so I want to tell you something about the mosque. So this mosque, the mosque of Sidi Soufi. So I have a student, Amel, and she was fond of heritage, all the notion in relation of heritage. So I encouraged her to try to see the heritage not like a kind of object that will be museumized in the action to make objects in the museum. And I try to encourage her to analyze what exists and to propose perhaps a good solution which will participate to give another life by improving the condition of the user in this kind of space. And I think that she succeeded the challenge, and I'm really so proud about the production of our students in our department. So I just want to add something. So here we studied the daylight and the sonorous wave. So you can make a study on small subjects, and you can also read more than one subject in your master thesis. So the last example, I would like to say it, is that of Sarah, a student I had who wasn't, she showed me all the time that she wasn't really comfortable with the French language. So I tried all with her, and I noticed that she had great ideas. She tells the things in the good way by using the English language. In French language, it was kind of catastrophe. So I encouraged her with my colleague Merzek, donc to work in English language, and this was the big challenge for her. By the end of the year, she took up the challenge, and with brilliance. It was the first thesis, master thesis in English, defended in our department. The subject was the study of the element, lot of elements, so sonorous elements, signals of luminous ambience, the wind, the direction of the wind, the thermal, the composition of the walls, a lot of parameter or feature. So in Kabylian housing, or in Kabyle housing, and I think that the challenge was took up by Sarah. So by the end of my presentation, I want to give you some advice and tips. So first of all, choose the option that suits you the best. This is the most important thing for you. No one will twist your arms to make a choice. So try to make a good choice. This is the first advice. The second piece of advice that I can give you, never choose an option for a particular teacher. Not because, for example, Mme Attar is explaining architecture, environment, and technology, we will choose that option. No. The choice will be for the option, not for the person who is launching this option, or will, the person who will supervise you next year. Start thinking about your theme now. So don't let the subject to the next year. Try to make your own reflections now, this year and this moment. By studying the curricular seminar, I guess that you will have a great concept, and you can make your choice. So it will be evident for you to make a choice. Don't choose the easy way. So I asked you before if you are interested in something, and I noticed that you choose the things which are simple, or the simplest way. So try to make your choice a challenge, to get out of your comfort zone and explore. I mean, you know, explore what you haven't been able to do in your 4 years. And I think that this is the most important thing. So try to make your choice difficult, a little bit difficult. You will challenge yourself, and you will master several knowledge. So believe in yourself and your abilities, because no one will do it for you. So don't underestimate yourself, and always go for it. And I think that this is the best type I can give for you. So, well, the next slide. When? I think that goes beyond the scope of my presentation. So thank you for your attention, and that's all.